Hey y'all, Coach in the Fight here, looking in the Testament of Solomon, talking about spiritual warfare. Now, based on a lot of comments that I've been getting, a lot of emails and information that people have been sharing, makes me think that maybe it's time we start learning how to cast out spirits. We learn in the Bible that it is our responsibility to cast out spirits. That's why the Messiah did it as an example, and then he told us that it would be our responsibility to do so as well. But we've all watched those movies like The Exorcist, and we don't want to be like that preacher man that gets thrown out the window. So let's look in the scripture and find out what it is that we're supposed to be doing, exactly what it is that we're supposed to say in order to cast out a spirit. Now, like we said, we're looking in the Testament of Solomon. You can get that over at jtor.org or something like that if you do a search for the Testament of Solomon. But when you look down in verse 89, it's talking about this 18th spirit named Baldamich. So let me read it here. It says, the 18th said, I am called Baldamich. I separate wife from husband and bring about a grudge between them. If anyone write down the names of thy sires, Solomon, on paper and place it in the antechamber of his house, I retreat thence. And the legend written shall be as follows. The God of Abram, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob commands thee, retire from this house in peace. So this is what we're supposed to be saying here. And guys, I've tried this. Those of you who follow my channel, you know that I've had a episode not too long ago, not me personally, but somebody in my family had some experience with these spirits. And praise our Father in heaven, I just happen to have this written on a plaque on my wall in my bedroom when it all went down, and I was able to deal with it accordingly. I mean, it was a completely unexpected thing that happened to us. But praise our Father in heaven, being obedient to the word, I had put this on the answer chamber, which I had to learn was my bedroom. I had put this in the bedroom of my house. And on this faithful night, when all of this went down and we had to deal with these spirits face to face, we read this. We read this on the wall. The God of Abram, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob commands thee, retire from his house in peace. And on that faithful night, like I said, it worked. We saw these spirits. I counted at least 7 of them leave the premises. Okay, so that happened. Now, fast forward a few months after all of that went down. That wasn't, that was like the first of it, but it wasn't over that night, if you know what I mean. We still had some residual effects. I'm going to tell you what it felt like to me. It felt like what the Messiah was saying about how when the one spirit moves out, 7 spirits move in. Well, we was able to cast out all 8 of those spirits that night. And there was clear evidence for the next 3 days that there was no spirits around. There was a complete change, complete turnaround. But then came New Moon Day. I believe there was a sin that was committed, going outside of the gates or something like that was done, because by the end of those 3 days, on New Moon days, the spirits were back. And I should say the spirit was back, not the 7, but the original one, the one that we've been dealing with for years and decades now, came back. And I kind of thought it was there, but I was scared to actually try to cast it out again because of the way it went down the first night. I didn't know if I was going to cause something like that to happen again. I don't want to go into all of the details. But on the first faithful night, like I said, we ejected spirits out, and we could hear them leave. We couldn't see anything, but we can hear them exit the building and the room. We could hear them go away. And then another one would, and they'd be gone for a short period of time, and then another one would come, and we would repeat the process, blowing the trumpets and reading this, and they would go away, and then some time would pass, and another would come. Like I said, I believe I counted 8 of these, at least 7 of them. Well, then months later, I was afraid that whole night was going to re-happen, even though I thought that people around me had spirits of jealousy, Jezebel spirit. I was scared to do anything about it. Then my son had a dream. He had a dream that he went to his grandmother's house and looked at his grandmother in the bedroom. And for some reason, he decided to head toward the door. And when he was headed towards the door, he said his grandmother teleported and landed in front of him and scared him. That's when I came and woke him up. I heard him in there squealing and making noise. And I knew he was having some type of nightmare. So I woke him up. He said he was dreaming about his grandmother. Well, I had already been thinking about these spirits to then, but that kind of dawned on me that the interpretation that I came up with his dream was that he had to do this. He couldn't escape. He had this responsibility because he was there that night when we were casting out demons in my bedroom. He was there. He was the one blowing the trumpet. And now he has this dream that he has to deal with spirits with his grandmother, and it seemed like he tried to escape without dealing with it, and he couldn't. And so that made me think that, I had to do something. So I did. First, in my own room by myself, I read it on the wall, and to cast the spirits out. And then I went to each room, to each room where they were sleeping in my house, and I read it. And then I went to everybody's house, if you know what I mean, on my complex. I went to everybody who lives here on my complex. Not everybody lives in the same house, but everybody lives in the complex. But I went and said this prayer over everybody, and it worked. It was like let me tell you what happened. So I goes over and I says this prayer, and the person who I think is the most affected by it actually said thank you. Surprisingly. You're welcome. So now I goes back to my house, and I shuts my door, and take a shower, blah, 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 whatever, just get ready for bed. And I get in the bed. And shortly after I get in the bed, I hear my door open. Now, I don't keep my doors locked because you never know when somebody may want to come and get some sugar or something. And so I hear the door open and close. But there was no other sound. And so I waited to hear who was going to be moving around doing what. Was they going to the bathroom? Were they going to the kitchen? But they didn't move. So finally I got up to go see what they were doing. There was nobody in the house. Well, nobody in that room. I went to the other rooms and everybody was sleeping. So something opened and closed that door. I told my other son about it. He said, so they walked out. I said, son, you said that, not me. But facts are facts. We have had nothing like any of these spirits since that day. Nothing. And even the Jezebel spirit that we hear about, which is strife, deception, battle, jealousy. None of that's been around since we cast out these spirits. And I've been watching. Very interested, if you know what I mean. But I believe it worked. And so, guys, I wanted to share that with you because I know some of you guys are going through this. And if you're not going through it now, you better put this video in the watch later list because the whole world has this to come. The whole world is about to get inundated with these spirits, especially those who are involved in these heretical lies. Well, they're going to need somebody to cast them out. Well, this is what we have to do. Guys, you need to take this and write it down. To the God of Abram. And I have on mine, I have the father of Abram, but it says the God of Abram and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob commands thee, retire from this house in peace. And they'll leave. They'll leave your house. So let's clean our houses, guys, because there's coming a day when I believe we're going to have to go to the neighbor's house and do the same thing. It's part of our responsibility. Let's get on it. Godspeed. Shalom.